impermanence of mental constructs. We know how thoughts can dictate the quality of our experience. When we are in love, the world is seen as friendly, bright, and lovely. When we are heartbroken, the world is seen as dark, cold, and menacing. Most people experience their self-worth as fluctuating extremes of positive and negative. The search for more positive experiences and the avoidance of negative ones form the common day-to-day strategy of most lives. Unfortunately, if the positive view is clung to and the negative view is run from, the bondage of misidentification continues and the experience of life remains limited. This can be hard to accept because we tend to want to cling to our beautiful states of mind, to happy sensations and wonderful moments. If they could be successfully clung to, then what would be the harm? But all beautiful states of mind are inherently impermanent, so they cannot be successfully clung to. All states of mind and all feelings arise, exist, and then disappear. Most people spend most of their day avoiding this truth through thought activity. That thought activity is primarily motivated by the desire to get back wonderful feelings from the past and to get rid of any bad feelings that may arise in the present. When you see clearly the relentless, ruthless truth of the impermanence of bodies, emotions, thoughts, states, and images, you will have the choice to let what is impermanent be impermanent. What an easy choice. It is already impermanent. In fact, all of the activity to hold on to whatever is inherently impermanent is finally recognized as futile. In your willingness to accept the truth of impermanence, which includes every idea of who you are, there is the deepest relaxation. Your idea of who you are when you are 5 is different from your idea of who you are when you are 15, 50, or 90. An idea, by its nature, is impermanent. Recognize that any idea of who you are is impermanent. Anything that is impermanent has no inherent reality. In this complete recognition, all activity of the mind is stopped. Mind activity feeds on itself until it creates an enormous complexity of suffering. At the core of all mind activity is a search for self-definition. But the mind searches in all the wrong places. It searches in thoughts. It searches in objects, acquiring a new car, a new lover, a better job, a bigger house. It even searches in spirituality, in the quest for the enlightened me. The mind's activity is always based on rejecting something or grasping at something. Whatever the mind is rejecting or clinging to is impermanent. When your mind surrenders to the truth of impermanence, this activity has nowhere to go, and the mind is still. At this point, the mind has reached the ocean of consciousness, realizing itself as never separate from that ocean. The permanence of your true nature is recognized to be the continuous presence of awareness that was exactly the same when you were 5, 15, 50, or 90 years old. Subtle, radiant awareness is your true identity. When you realize who you are and all your attempts to get something better so that you can be something better are seen in all their absurdity, a great deep laugh follows. Such a release, this laugh. It comes from millions of aeons of hiding from the truth of yourself, and then the exquisite release of finally surrendering to the truth of being. Memory and projection. The only obstacle to realizing the truth of who you are is thinking who you are. It is really that simple. I use all of my conversations with people to cut through that thought process, which, as you know, is very strong. thoughts of who you are come from two powers of mind: the power of remembering the past and the power of projecting into the future. Thoughts of past and future create the present thought of who you are. These powers of memory and projection are very big powers indeed. There is nothing wrong with remembering the past or projecting into the future. Both are part of the experience and the power of being human. However, the danger of this power is that in overlooking permanent presence, in being so fascinated by God's fabrications and the permutations of those fabrications, God itself is overlooked. Then suffering appears, and a yearning arises to reconnect with the truth of God to alleviate the suffering. Right now, before you hear any more, I want you to close your eyes and generate some thoughts. Everyone is a master at this, so you might as well use it. See yourself as a child. See who you were then. You may have a picture, or a sensation, or just a sense of knowing who you were then. Now see yourself as an adolescent or young adult. See who you were then. See yourself as you are when you're sick, when you feel miserable. Experience the feelings and the thoughts of being sick. Now see yourself when you are bursting with health. See who you are then. Feel the sensations that arise around the image of yourself as the healthy one. See yourself happy, really fulfilled, and imagine how that feels. Now see yourself as miserable, lost, isolated, and separate. See yourself as who you imagine you will be someday. Project yourself into the future. Now, most importantly, see if it is possible to tell the truth. What is it that sees all these images of you? What is it that is aware of all your feelings? The notions of who you are have an age. They change. They appear in the past, and they are projected into the future. What sees these changes has always been here, changelessly seeing. The seeing does not have a face, does not have a personality, and finally, does not even have an essence. It is without thought, without attribute, without past, and without future. And yet, when there are attributes, a past, a future, it is not absent. It is eternally here. If you were able in that split second to see the emptiness of any image of who you are, then you can choose to either continue chasing some better image or to surrender to the truth that is both imageless and inseparable from any image. This is very important. The formless truth of who you are is inseparable from any formulation of who you are, for the truth is all-inclusive. Right now, in this present moment, the formless truth of who you are is just as present as when your body is dead and all those images are finished. Your incredible and thrilling opportunity is to realize yourself as the formless truth before your body dies. Many of you have realized this. Many of you will realize this. Some may not realize it until they're on their deathbed. Even in that moment of death, if you can realize the formless presence that has been inseparable from every moment of your life, then your life will have been lived in the glory of that conscious awareness. Your final fulfillment will be a testimony to the world. The thoughts of yourself are the only obstacle to this fulfillment. Yet they are not a problem, because you, as consciousness, have the capacity to see through any obstacle. You are the seeing itself. You have full and absolute capacity to know yourself, to be true to yourself, and to be tested in this knowing. In that testing, you will discover and know yourself in ways that are deeper and always fresher. Everything is a vehicle. And everything can be turned away from. That's where free will comes in, and free willingness. And mostly we've used our free will to turn into safety and protection, because it is so huge to recognize that we are nothing. Really huge. I mean, it sounds good till you get close to it. And then it's like, oh no, really? Really nothing. And the mind immediately equates that with non-existence. It's not a correct equation, but that's what the mind does, of course. Nothing equals non-existence. If I am nothing, if I'm not somebody, that therefore means I do not exist. The truth is, what doesn't exist is who you think you are. Doesn't exist. It's all a lie. The good parts and the bad parts. And who you think everybody else is, too. It's all made up. It's the power of imagination. And it's wondrous in its own right. But regarding the truth of the matter, it doesn't in reality exist. And because of our identification with who we think we are, we assume if that doesn't exist, then I doesn't exist. But I is in fact existence. That all of the stories and the forms and the made-upness appear and disappear in. And so when the form of you disappears, I remains. When you recognize who you are, you know your form that you call I will disappear, and you remain, not as a floating entity. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean as what remains when you're gone. As consciousness itself, as life itself. And it's your time to directly discover this. What a miracle. I mean, that's what I feel like. It's like somebody I got in the door, like, sneaked in or something, or wandered into the wrong room, and all of a sudden, there it was. It's like, wow. Because I didn't deserve it. Like, I'm sure if you tell the truth, you'll see you don't deserve it. Really, finally. So it's not about deservability. It is this mystery that somehow has appeared choicelessly in your lives with the invitation to choose. And it's big. And it demands everything. And it takes everything. And it leaves nothing. Nothing. And that nothing is worth losing everything for. Someone was up here speaking about, enlightenment would be, I can't remember what you said. Something like wonderful. Like some kind of state, yogic state. That's a yogic state. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not a yogi. Really, at all. I could use some yoga. I'm not talking about that. As beautiful as that is, as all yogic states are. I'm speaking about what exists before any state, and during every state, and after any state is gone. And that's the truth of who you are, not the truth of who you think you are, which appears and disappears and mutates and transforms and changes and is high or low, or bright or dull, or open or closed. You follow me? Good. I can only take you so far. I'll take you to the edge of the abyss, and I can push. Or say, oh, come, come. But really, that's a waste of my energy. It's just because like to play the role. It's really up to you. And it's just stopping. Without even knowing what you're doing, stopping. And then seeing what you're doing and stopping. And then stopping deeper. And then stopping the inclination to say, well, now I stopped, now what? And on and on and on until it finally hits